saw you give your view on Bitcoin. I was sitting at Starbucks. There was this woman next to me reading. I don't know. It was like Wall Street Journal or something. I don't know what it was. So I just kind of peeked over, and she was reading the article on Bitcoin. And so I just said, "So what do you think? What do you think about it?" And she said, "I don't know. I don't believe in that. I don't believe it, or something like that. I don't believe in that. I don't think it's good." I said, "Well, what do you know about it?" And in about 7 seconds or so, I realized she really didn't know anything about it. It just caught her eye. She started reading about it. I wonder what the average person thinks, because this is a woman who's reading a business, clearly a business publication. She didn't pick up Glamour magazine, right? So she's reading it for a reason. She must have some background or knowledge or interest in the field, and yet she had no idea what she was reading on it, had not really much of an opinion. At one point she said, "Well, it's kind of like stocks. It's the same thing."
Yeah.
And we're sitting in Starbucks, so I said, "Wait a minute. If you buy a stock you're in Starbucks. You could buy the stock. You have a company in front of you. It's not quite like that. It's very different." But I just wonder, if you took 10 people off the street or 100 people off the street, what do they think? They read headlines, but do they actually even know anything about it? Or is it such a tiny, real niche that we talk about, but 99.9% of people they never even heard of it, wouldn't even know it if it landed in their lap virtually?
I was going to guess that it's probably 5% that have heard the term Bitcoin, and probably 1% that know the smallest fragment of information about it, and then even less than that have any kind of superior knowledge.
Right.
So it's that's part of the problem, is that it's so esoteric, it's out there, that people just don't understand what the hell it's all about and why they would even care.
Right.
Hey,
right.
It's got like a cult following.
Yeah, it's all headlines right now. Basically, it's the people, like, if you're the one writing an article, even on the web, obviously. You do a video and you put Bitcoin in it, you're going to get some people that are interested in it. I mean, not like other items, but you're going to get some interest. And a lot of it is just headlines, right? But then when you get into it, you realize, yeah, that small percentage of people have ever heard of it even, never mind of following it. But it was on like the second page. I was kind of amazed by that.
The thing that I find really strange about the whole Bitcoin thing is that basically people were afraid of the Federal Reserve, and they thought they didn't trust the money printing, and then they're basically buying a currency that's fully digital, and you're entrusting a bunch of servers and God knows what else.
Right.
That's the reason why people buy gold and silver, is there's no counterparty risk. They hold the physical metal in their hand, and that's why Bitcoin never made any sense to me.
Because you felt like you couldn't hold it.
Yeah, you can't trust it.
Right, you can't trust.
Well, you can't trust it because you're not familiar with it. If here's the thing, I came out with my video and said that I trust it based on my technical knowledge of it and the network, and it's a sound technology. There's no doubt about it, but that doesn't necessarily fly with the 99 people who have no idea what we're talking about. It's going to take a huge PR campaign to get it into the minds of people, and even then, it's going to take a significant effort just to produce a positive view of what Bitcoin is about and what it can do for them. So it's got such a huge wall to climb before it will have any kind of general acceptance. It's going to be, like I said, sort of a cult following up until that point. It may be that way for a long time.
Yeah, my theory on that, and I commented on a previous video of yours, is that I think that basically for a really long time everyone is just speculating on assets because the real economy isn't healthy at all. That people are so poor that they can't really consume like they used to. So no one's using money to start a business and hire loads of people because there's no demand within the economy. So that's why you see house prices going up, and you saw gold prices going up, now Bitcoin, and it's just like one non-productive, speculative investment after another. That's how I view it.
Right. Well, I don't know so much that it's that people don't have the money as much as it is people are still skittish of putting their money into the system, and quite frankly, it's been like that for ever since the crash, since 2009. And it's not just people; it's companies too. They're not putting any money. They're not investing at all either.
Because the thing is, if you want to get a real take on the economy, you go to like a shopping mall or something like that. You see, empty stores, business going
Oh,
under.
wait a minute. Where are you? Where do you
Yeah,
live?
not in our area.
Yeah. Around here, the malls you're shoulder to shoulder with people.
But
I'm
is it
not
just
checking
credit card
people's.
debt, or is it real spending?
Oh, I mean, it's real spending, that's for
Like,
sure.
like, is it just building debt on the credit card, or
Oh, absolutely. They just said that the debt increased, right? So people are getting lulled in after 5 years. They're finally realizing that they have all this extra cash, which they really don't have, and debt is finally increasing again for the first, I mean, really huge jump. So people have been lulled, and they kind of were scared. Now I think there's that 5 year or so change. Housing has been increasing, so people are spending in that. Maybe they don't call it an investment, but they're buying things.
Yeah,
yeah, I just
absolutely.
wonder what the outcome is. Like eventually, if the stock market starts to crash and then the housing goes down, people are going to feel less confident and have more debt than they had previously. Maybe I don't know.
And I was at the Apple store a couple of weeks ago,
Where's
and
your Apple store, Ernie? Where do you guys have one?
oh, well, we have them all over the place
No,
here.
where do you have it? Which one do you go to?
I go to the one in Dedham, Legacy Place, but
Yeah, yep,
I could also go to the Braintree South Shore Mall, or I could go to the Providence one at the mall there.
yep.
You know,
Providence Place.
they're all over the place. There's one in Framingham, one in Boston. I mean, it's unbelievable here. I've got, within 20 minutes, I've got 5 Apple stores.
It's deceptive though, because when you walk past where we are, there's an Apple store, and 20 feet away is a Microsoft.
Hmm.
And it's funny, the Apple store has 40 people in it. Microsoft has 5. It's pretty wild. But the mall isn't that busy. Apple is kind of an anomaly, I think.
Well, 40 people, at least at the one I'm shopping at, would be a small crowd.
Right. But I'm saying no matter what time you walk by, it's always, always busy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I went in there on a Friday afternoon, and it was snowing a couple of weeks ago when we had that storm.
Yeah.
And there was about 150 people in that store.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I don't understand why the stock's going down.
Don't even get started with me on that.
So
It's a
Ernie,
good point.
do you think the next catalyst is going to be the iWatch? Is that the big thing coming?
No, I think what this ITV, or actually the next big thing will be the iPhone 6 when they come out with a larger format phone. I mean, the iWatch is kind of an interesting thing, but I don't know what Apple's going to do with it that's going to be novel, um, and really useful.
We could be saying later on, oh, what was I thinking? That was a great idea, but it sounds like it's just a toy.
See, I think that Apple missed a couple of opportunities. I think they could have bought Twitter, which would have been really big, and I also think they could have bought Netflix when it was really cheap. No, there were two big opportunities right there.
Interesting.
I think they can still buy them and not break a sweat.
Yeah, true.
The question, though, is Twitter really here to stay, or does somebody else come onto the scene? Because whether they really make any money is we don't know yet.
Twitter's got two problems. One is that they're not growing their
Subscriber base.
subscriber base, and they're having a hard time trying to figure out how they're going to actually monetize.
Monetize, exactly, and it's not going to be easy.
No, I
Hey,
mean
Ernie,
the only way I can see monetizing it right now, the inline ads are not working. I think that one way that they could do it is they could offer services for verticals, like news agencies, for instance.
Ah, that's interesting. Yep.
Hey, Ernie, does this market remind you of the tech bubble in the 90s? Because you have Tesla, Amazon, Facebook, Twitter, all these like really expensive stocks. They just keep going up and up and up, and people are kind of just buying it because they're going up.
No, I
Rather
think
than
it's
fundamentals.
fundamentally different, and the reason, I don't know if you know this, but back in the 90s, the late 90s and into the 2000s, right when the bubble burst, I was chief architect with Sun Microsystems, And my principal job was out there enabling all these new tech startups that were coming onto the dot-com craze. And in a way, I feel like I'm responsible partly for the bubble bursting, because we were providing them with all these, I should say, creative financing deals to get them online. And back then, we were basically giving equipment and services away, because we knew that, and with companies that had no business plan whatsoever. They had no concept of how they were going to actually make money. All they cared about is getting their thing out there on the web. It's very different now today. I think that you don't have that kind of venture money now that's being thrown into the mix. So I see it as fundamentally different.
So you don't think people are too complacent in the market right now?
Do I think people are complacent?
Oh, that's the same.
Yeah, I mean, that's a different question, right? You know, basically what I was saying is that the market, we don't have the kind of the liberal venture capital throwing money at everything type of thing that we had back in the late 90s, early 2000s.
From the banks, though, right? Is that what you're saying?
From everybody, anybody that had $1 million to $10 million to throw at a new company, they were out there doing it. You get capital companies that would find, 15 guys that had ideas, and they would throw, $1 to $5 million at each one of them, knowing that one of them was going to turn into a hit.
Something. Yeah.
Right.
Even if it was for a little while till they sold it.
Right. Now you don't have that at all. The money is more carefully distributed.
Right.
But in
terms of distribute it, they want to make sure they can give out their CEO bonuses now.
Yeah. But in terms of complacency, now you're talking about sentiment of the market.
Right.
And hold on, there's Edward B. opened capture smile. I don't know what that is, but I'll say it.
I'm trying to figure out how to use this picture thing.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what, Ernie? That wasn't me. That was the NSA.
Oh, okay.
Because it seems like right now the price-to-earnings ratios are pretty fairly valued, maybe overvalued domestically, but international seems to be the real value. But all the money's going still domestically, ignoring international. I know you say you don't really follow international markets, but...
Well, I follow international enough to know that there's no money going into the international market right now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no value there. Let's see. What are you doing there? What is this?
Trying to figure out how to put up a picture.
Well, that's you. That's you.
Yeah, that's me.
I see. That's kind of interesting. But you're putting me up.
Well, I'm trying to find the best-looking person here, so...
That's definitely not me. I think
it automatically goes to you. It's like a Google default or something. I don't know how that happens.
So we have another participant. We have Kim. I don't know if Kim has a microphone or not.
Either that or she can't speak.
Hey, Ernie, I was wondering if you follow Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway at all?
I think Warren Buffett is a fool, so I don't follow him.
Oh, okay.
Why do you say that?
Why do I say that?
Yeah.
All right. Warren Buffett is, well, first of all, in the past 10 years, how much money has he lost compared to how much he's made?
I don't know. I assume you have that answer, so...
Yeah, he's lost about $25 billion more than he's made.
Okay.
Okay? I mean, first of all, his style of investing, if it were so monumental and great, there would be a lot more Warren Buffetts out there, but there aren't.
Like they could learn from him and duplicate it.
Yeah, he was lucky. He invested in one company, he kept all his money in that one company, and that company took off. It's as simple as that.
Do you think that Berkshire Hathaway is too big to continue growing, that no one should invest in it?
Oh, I don't know. It's a conglomerate. So I mean, It depends on what the next, what
Yeah, what do they buy next?
yeah.
Because
How did he make his money?
No, that's how he made it, by investing in Berkshire Hathaway and just stuck with that investment, and they
Oh,
grew.
that was his original. I didn't know that. Okay,
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
interesting.
Because he's been trailing the S&P 500 for a few years now.
Right. So, the fact of the matter is that most billionaires out there, unless they made their money, the old-fashioned way, they inherited it. They got lucky, and they were able to sell an internet company or whatever and parlay it, and it's just the way it is. Most people get rich because they're lucky. A few people get rich because they have a really good idea and then they cash out. And even that is more or less luck, because it's a good idea isn't the thing that actually makes money. It's the execution of that idea. And sometimes it can take some entrepreneurs 10, 15, 20 tries before they get something that sticks.
I heard somebody today mention Warren Buffett was good at finding the story, figuring out the story, and then investing in it. He was using the example of Coca-Cola, like we talked about before, walking into a mall and seeing if it's busy or not busy. When people say that, it drives me nuts, because I'm thinking, you don't know what's in their bags, you don't know what they bought yesterday. That's just human perception of what you think people are doing.
Yeah, those are all myths. They're like,
it's ridiculous.
It's like urban legends.
Yeah, exactly. Ignore the fundamentals. Don't pay attention to the statistics. But you saw somebody carrying a bag or not carrying a bag, so that's a good way to invest.
I don't know what to say. In general, most people are lucky that become successful in the market. I mean, that's just the way it is. I like to. I'm sorry, I have some acid reflux that I'm working on. I'm taking some Prilosec. I'm hoping in the next couple of days it goes away.
Wait a minute, Ernie, did you just say you're taking Prilosec?
Yeah.
I better go invest in that.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm a market.
Right, exactly.
I like to use this little anecdote that I use. I call it the coin flip game. So let's say that this sort of represents traders that are out there, and we're playing a game. We have 1,024 traders, and I'm using the number 1,024 just to make the numbers work easier.
Yep.
And the coin flip is, we choose heads or tails. And so on the first flip, you get 512 winners and 512 losers. All right. And on the second flip, you get 256 winners. On the third, you get 128. On the fourth, you get 64. On the fifth, you get 32. On the sixth, you get 16. On the seventh, you get 8. On the ninth, you get 4. And then on the 10th flip, you've got 2 people left, right? And one of them wins. Okay, so one of those people, after 9 flips, won the prize out of 1,024 people. Right. And no matter how many times you run the game, there's always going to be one person that's going to win. That wins 9, 10 times in a row. Okay? Now that's just 1,000 people. Now you can imagine, winning 9, 10 times in a row at anything. If you bet size right, I mean you can turn it in a small bundle into a fortune.
Exactly.
There are some people out there that have won 100 times in a row.
Absolutely.
Right? And they can't seem to do any wrong. But in reality, it's all just luck.
Well, what you're trying to do is obviously work on your luck, but that if you can statistically change it at all. The other part of it is we as humans, right? So take statistics alone. Once you add in humans, we look at information and then we reinforce through logic, right? We make an emotional decision. Then if we won 2, 3, 4 times in a row, we start to confirm and validate what we think. So we say, hey, wow, I'm good at this, or I'm good at that. When if we took it out 10,000 times or whatever, statistically we might find out we're not so good at that. But we start to just reinforce our belief systems. So if we keep losing, we think, wow, I really stink at this. Or if we win a few times, we think, wow, I'm really good at this. So we believe it's reality, or it's the truth. And then we tell everybody else, that's the way it is. This is the way it is.
All right. I just got a text from Greg Manarino.
He said, "Good job, Ernie. You're kicking butt."
He says, "I think we're there, brother. Look out below, very, very soon."
Hey Ernie, I had a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So if you look at like a chart of the Dow Jones in the previous century, from like 1910 to the end of the century, it's kind of like a straight line upwards almost. Do you think it's possible that this century will be kind of the same thing? Like, because we all assume this buy and hold long-term investing thing that the future is always going to be better than the past. Is that going to repeat, you think?
Well, generally, markets go up. They don't go up in a straight line, actually. They go up in kind of like the staggered way. Usually, something that follows something of the Elliott wave principle. 5 waves up, 3 waves down. 5 waves up, 3 waves down. And yeah, markets tend to go up and keep on going up. I suppose that there can be periods. It really depends on the time scale that you look at. But I think that if you went back and you look, you go out another 100 years at a 100-year time scale, it'll probably be the same thing. It's kind of fractal in nature, right? So if you were to sort of zoom in, from 100 years down to say 10 years, or even something less than that, the curve will look pretty much the same. So I have to assume that over time it's pretty much going to be the same thing.
Do you worry about climate change and peak oil and things like that, which could affect the growth?
No. I mean, climate change, it might, but I think that us humans, we tend to adapt. And climate change will happen over a long period of time. And even if it only happens over a period of a decade or less, we'll still adapt.
Yeah, so I guess if you look at like population growth, when you have an abundance of food and resources, it's pretty easy to sustain it. But I don't know if in the future, maybe because of climate change and so on, like population growth might slow down. I don't know how that will
Well, see,
affect.
one of the problems is that I don't think anybody has a good answer on whether or not climate change is going to be good or bad for the production of crops. It might be good. I mean, what if all of a sudden we get a 30% increase in the available area to do agriculture because we now have less ice covering land or longer growing seasons. I don't know. I mean, in the past 100,000 years, we've had at least 3 other periods where the global temperature has gotten much higher than we are right now. All right, and there weren't any humans around there at that time with the industrial capacity to bring the temperature up that high.
Right.
Right, and you also have to consider that 100,000 years ago, where I'm living today, we were under a mile of ice.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
So what you're saying is we should have invested in ice picks?
what I'm saying is that the Earth changes, whether it's humans or not. It changes,
Of course it changes.
and it changes drastically.
I guess also electric cars are going to be the future as well, so that's going to affect things.
Well, I mean, first there's the infrastructure problem, right? I mean, you need to have the ability. There are 2 problems with electric cars. You have the infrastructure problem, so you need someplace where you can charge up, but that's not really that big of a problem. Those can be put up relatively easy. It's easier than, say, providing the infrastructure for natural gas or gasoline. The other thing is the speed at which you can charge up.
Yeah.
Typically it takes half a day or overnight to refuel. Unlike in a car, you can refuel in about 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah, but I mean, they're making it faster. So even now, you have these stations that Tesla's building up, obviously around the country, and they can do it. You can do it supposedly in 20 to 30 minutes. I don't know how accurate that is. So obviously, I still don't want to sit in the middle of somewhere freezing my butt off with 20 minutes or 30 minutes. But that's happening, I think, faster than what we think is happening. The bigger issue is still people will say, yeah, but it's still not convenient for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a halfway solution, like with fuel cells, where you can fill up on hydrogen, for instance.
Right, that would be sweet.
Yeah, and you can fill up almost immediately.
I think electric cars make sense for a lot of people other than like long road trips because you can just charge up your car when you go to bed and then you can drive it to the supermarket, wherever you want to go the next day. So only for like those really long trips that it's inconvenient. But I think once the price gets below, like 30,000 US dollars or something, that's going to become a really big thing.
Well, that's pretty much the thing with any big advancement is if the price gets big enough so that you can have widespread adoption, then it takes hold if there's utility, right?
Yeah, Elon Musk is a smart guy though. That's what he's going for. He's trying to change the whole landscape, I guess.
Right. Well, aren't they? Isn't it next year they're coming out with that midline model? I think it's 30 something thousand dollars, which is a whole different ball game.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, right now the damn. Sorry about this. Um, right
Yeah,
now,
but you can't sell all these $70 and $80,000 cars and expect everybody to jump on. It's ridiculous. You got to go to a mall to check out a car. You already know you're paying too much. So the idea is it's nice, but still, the large majority of people just see that as a cool item. It's not going to be anything that the masses can do until you get into a price range that most people can deal with.
well, I think that it's a smart thing for him to do because that's a much higher margin car than building a car that's only for 30,000. So
Oh, absolutely.
he could
Well, it's
probably
great
build
for
a
him.
$30,000 car, but he's not going to be able to grow his business.
No, and he might be wildly successful. Doesn't mean that you and I will see it on the streets everywhere.
Exactly. Well, this is turning out to be pretty good, except for my acid reflux here. Um, let's see. You have a question? I always feel like I'm stepping on somebody.
I think one of the interesting trends that I've been paying attention to lately is how improvements and automation is reducing the amount of employment that we need. Like Amazon replaced so many workers in small stores, and once you have electric cars everywhere, you have less need for mechanics because they're very, very simple design. So I think that they're talking about like using drones to fly packages to people's houses and stuff. I don't know how much of that is possible, but it seems like the trend is uh, efficiency is reducing employment, I guess I would say.
Yeah, but you know what? Um, I don't think that it necessarily reduces employment because been becoming a more efficient at producing things for a long, long time, and the overall labor force has been shifting in terms of the type of jobs that are available and the type of jobs that they go for. So,
Yeah, definitely much more technology.
see, the problem is that when you have politicians that start talking about this stuff, or other people that are, clamoring against these types of advances and pointing out all the problems, their view is always a static world, as if, we're going to stay like if we stay like this and we move towards a more automated economy, there's going to be a bunch of people that lose their jobs. But that's ridiculous. How can you say that? If we do that, there's going to be a number of people that are going to say, "Hey, I have to retrain myself or go after something different to make money," or they're going to invent new services or new businesses so that they can survive. They're not going to just sit there and say, "Oh, woe is me, I'm going to starve, and now give me a handout." Although some people do.
Yeah, I guess the thing is like I agree with what you're saying because in terms of like farming, if you had people still pushing a plow, we'd have less food and higher costs if we didn't develop machinery and technology to improve yield. But I guess at the same time, it's kind of you go to a supermarket now and it's self-checkout, and I don't know if what the inevitable outcome of this whole system thing is, with automation and machines replacing people. But
Well,
it's
see,
complex.
the other thing is that when they start talking about like the minimum wage and how that's going to hurt a lot of people with their standard of living and so forth. When I was growing up, minimum wage jobs weren't for people that were trying to support a family. They were for kids and people that were just entering the workforce or people that had no skills. Um, excuse me one second. Talk amongst yourselves.
Haha.
Hey, Greg, how you doing?
Hey, Ernie, tell Greg to get on the hangout or get lost.
Hey, be quiet over there. Sorry about that.
So what Ernie was saying was that when he was little and they had minimum wage back in the 1910, 1920 era,
Horse and buggy.
right, horse and buggy, you know how it was back in the day.
Yeah.
He had to walk to school uphill both ways.
Yeah, I disagree with him on that, and I'll speak to him when he gets back, I guess.
In what way do you disagree?
Well, I just think that because the world today is so much different that, I guess the two main factors would be technology and globalism. That
Okay.
you can now, you don't, it used to be back in the day that you'd have to pay people because you needed labor to do things. But nowadays you can just outsource to like Bangladesh and these foreign cheap markets. And so uh, I think that the wages are just going to keep going down.
Right, it's a global economy.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. And the wages have been flat since like 1978 in the U.S. They've stayed at the same level for most people, but the productivity has gone up. So what that means is all the wealth has been given to the most wealthy in society, and the majority of people, their wages have been flatlined.
Yeah, how do you change that?
Well, what I think has to happen is companies should change the way they do business and pay people uh, relative to their, I guess, how productive the company is. They should pay more to their employees. But yeah, it's difficult to implement. But I would say minimum wage should keep up with productivity. If people are working harder and longer hours, they deserve a higher wage.
They don't deserve anything, though. Here's my point, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but here's my point. If we agree that it's a global economy,
Yeah.
you can't change it. So you can't say, hey, I'm going to pay, if I work on Main Street, I pay $10 an hour, and if you work a mile away, some company that's similar pays $20 an hour.
Yeah.
That's not how free markets work.
Yeah.
If we're truly in a global marketplace, which we're entering, this is new, right? Which young, really. If we're entering that, you can't force a company in my state to pay the same amount as somebody in Bangladesh. Otherwise, they shouldn't be over there. But if they are there, that's part of the world. You can't make that happen.
Yeah, that's true. You can't like force the hand so
Nope.
much, but there
You
are
can
things that
try to influence it. You
there
know,
are things that you can do though, like providing cheap health insurance to people, because that's a huge cost, you know. Like I think that the amount US pays in health insurance equals like the economy of France or something. So you need to reduce costs for middle and poor
uh-huh.
people, and so then they have more incentive to start a business and so on. Because right now people just stay at their employment because they want to get health insurance. It
Right.
makes people
They
less
want benefits.
enterprising.
Yeah, they want their benefits.
Yeah.
The problem with that is when it comes to our country, getting benefits has been equated to being healthy. And the reality is we're at the bottom of the rung when it comes to health, and it's one of the most crippling economic things for our generation. And people think if they have benefits, they're healthy. So we're not even close. And the fact that the government got involved with making employers even give those benefits was the worst mistake this country's ever done financially when it comes to the healthcare system.
Yeah, it's very expensive and inefficient, and
And that's
it
it's
shouldn't be tied to employment. They should
not
get
at
rid of
all.
that. Yeah.
100% agree. It shouldn't be tied even 1%. However, that's a move to keep obviously the big businesses, happy, connected, whatever. But it should have never been connected, and all it did was get people to think they were getting better off. And they gave them a tax break. So the companies that were able to say, hey, I can give you $5,000 in salary, or I can give you $5,000 in benefits. It won't cost me $5,000, and I'll get the same tax break. What would you do if you're the company? The government screwed that up.
Yeah, they're exacerbating the issue, I guess. I think you're right.
Right now, we spend almost 20% of our GDP on healthcare. So you take $1 out of your pocket and you go buy a coffee, 20 cents of it goes into this sickness care system. And we're 50th on longevity when it comes to healthcare. So we're not even remotely close to the healthiest country in the world. We got countries that barely have running water. And just by being born there, you live longer. So statistically, that is one of the most corrupt things in our entire country. It's a sacred cow, and nobody wants to touch it.
Yeah, I agree. It makes a lot of money for the insurance companies.
Huge business. Huge, huge business. The biggest real estate deal in our country, I want to say it was, I'm going to say 6 years ago. I don't remember the exact date. I remember opening up the newspaper and seeing the very largest residential, it was an apartment complex, a group of buildings, and I think it was in New York somewhere, the largest group of buildings being sold in the history of the United States. I'm thinking, hey, is Donald Trump connected to this? That kind of thing. And it was this $6 billion sale, $6 billion. And I thought, wow, that's some big stuff right there. I wonder how many apartment buildings in the complex, how do they even do that? So $6 billion. The company that was selling it was MetLife.
Right.
I mean, what are they doing in real estate? They have so much money they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, I agree. I think like the main thing is if you have a chart of productivity, you definitely see that the American economy is working, but it's not working for everyone, right?
Right.
It's working very well for people who have a lot of money, a lot of stocks, and most people don't hold any stocks at all. It's just very, very wealthy people who own like 40% of the stock market or something. I don't know what the numbers are. So basically, what I think is that the wealth that's being generated has to at some point go back into society to how some areas in the US have like really bad schools or whatever. There has to be a
Yes.
solution to that so people can get the training they need to get those like high tech jobs or whatever, because people are falling behind, and you can't have a society where just the wealthy are getting ahead and everyone else is falling behind. It just
You
doesn't
mean
work.
like you mean like Russia?
Well, that's a very corrupt society, But I think if you look at other countries like, say, Germany, they have very good education, and businesses are kind of fundamentally run differently. They're much more democratic, where workers aren't seen as less important than the people who run the business.
You know,
Yeah.
hey Ed, I think that it's a fundamental problem with our entire system and our educational system. I think our educational system is designed to basically dumb everybody down and get them used to this sort of entitlement and welfare mentality. Uh, I don't think that we teach people the right things. We don't teach people to be entrepreneurial. I think that if we taught people to be entrepreneurial and understand money from a very early age, and not get into all these nuances of education, just teach them the basics and not push college so much. I don't think that trying to push everybody into college is really the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think maybe they could give people like internships out of high school, and they could train to become like a mechanic or something. But right now, it's like a lot of people just want to become investment bankers, and that's not really a good direction for the country either. I think you need
Yeah.
more like what we call engineers. That's what we need more of.
We need more of everything.
Yeah, there's a lot we need, but Ernie's correct. I don't think that the average big business or average politician, really, I kind of put it into a category. There's like big business, there's obviously bankers in the government. To me, they're married. And then there's big pharma, and there's military, whatever. But bottom line is none of them really want you and I to have a high level of knowledge where we think for ourselves. The last thing they want is a large percentage of people that question what's going on in this country or any country. I mean, that's just, that's kind of like a ruling body's mantra.
I don't know if that might be the end effect, and I don't know if that they're consciously saying that that's what they want.
Uh-huh.
But trying to standardize all the education, trying to have like a, everybody go through college, and basically when you have everybody going through college, and then the government wants to finance it, you're naturally going to turn everybody into these sort of drones that all know the same stuff, and that's not helping us. Everyone talks about diversity, but we're doing exactly the opposite. We are creating just a bunch of monobots.
Absolutely. It's like franchises everywhere.
Yeah, the government getting involved in paying for education is probably the worst thing that's ever happened to this country. The fact that government is subsidizing all student loans is the reason why education is going up, because schools, they can charge whatever the hell they want now because they know they're guaranteed to get their money. That doesn't make any sense. There's no competition anymore.
But it doesn't hold them accountable to deliver a good product.
That's right. That's exactly right.
I think one of the things that I thought should have happened, and I kind of come at this from a more of a liberal perspective, so I hope I don't offend anyone, but
Offend away.
I think that when the 2008 collapse happened, and they were talking about a stimulus plan, first of all, they did like a really bad job with it, where all the money went to these like local governments, and it was squandered. But in an ideal world, what they should have done is had a huge stimulus and have that money directly go towards employment, so people could fix the infrastructure, and all those construction workers who built houses before could then be like fixing the highways and fixing the bridges. And so
all right, so Ed, I'll go one step further, and
Okay.
I am anything but. Nobody could blame, call me a liberal. Although I have liberal ideals in many ways, and if you saw, I'm kind of all over the place. I'm on both ends of the spectrum at the same time. But what I would have done is,
Ernie, are you saying you play for both teams?
I play for both teams, man.
Okay. Just want to clear that up.
If you saw the way I brought up my kids, you'd be very surprised. But anyways, I would have given the money directly to the people. You could have taken all that money and paid off every single mortgage in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I figure, pay them to do something productive, and then you get an investment out of it, you get a return.
Well, sure, yeah, you could have done that, but the money should have gone directly to the people. Having it being filtered through the banks and the large corporations was absolutely the wrong way to do it. They would have gotten the money anyways through through people spending it, on services or whatever. But all that accomplished was allowed it to be filtered through a bunch of fat cats that pocketed it, most of it.
Yeah. See, what I think is that the conservatives, the Republicans, they see the country fundamentally different, and I don't know if they actually believe this or if they're just saying this out of self-interest. But the way they look at things is that taxation is always too much. They always want to reduce taxes, whereas someone like myself sees it more as a demand equation, that people aren't out there being able to spend because you have a
Well, I disagree with that. I think that's the way it used to be. But right now, I don't think that there's a hill of beans of difference between Republicans and Democrats. I think they're after exactly the same thing. They want everybody to be taxed and under their control, and they want to continue their careers as politicians because they're guaranteed for life to be set, and they don't have to play by the rules.
100% agree.
It's
100% agree.
What they should do, right, is that basically it's never been a better time to be a rich person than it is now, because you have really low wages and interest rates are really low, so you can borrow and speculate. And so the rich people are doing fantastically well, and so they like austerity because it kind of keeps that economy in that box. They don't want people having higher wages and so on. So I think there's like a self-interest behind this whole thing that maybe people don't recognize.
Well, I think we have to get rid of career politicians, and I think that will solve almost all the problems.
Term limits will be a start.
But there's no politician that's going to vote themselves a term limit.
No, neither would I.
They've got it so good.
Well, listen, the ideals of what the different parties offer are what keep people saying, I'm this or I'm that. And the reality is, like you said, the average politician is going to stay there no matter what. So they'll pretend that they have ideals and they want you to buy into the principles, and the thread that runs through all of them is that they want to stay in power. They want to keep. It's basically royalty in this country. I mean, we have kings and queens. They're just, we don't see it that way.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. And our primary system is kind of designed to perpetuate that too. They have these primaries where only Democrats can vote for Democrats and Republicans can vote for Republicans.
Yep.
And in the beginning, they play to the extreme of their base, and so
then they move center.
Right, and then they all move to the center. I mean, it's just a big shell game, is all it is.
And one of the big things is that because you have this huge wealth inequality with these really rich people, if you look at the statistics, the amount of money going towards like campaigns, special interest groups like the Koch brothers keeps going up and up and up all the time. All the money to maintain the system that benefits them. It's like welfare for the rich or something.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's that's how they get reelected. Hey, I'll make it easy for you to make billions, and then you kick it back to me so that I can keep on getting elected by paying people off.
Yeah, so like a lot of I know you.
But I wouldn't blame the rich. I mean, the problem is that the politicians use them as their what I call their useful dunces, right? And look, if you had money and you knew that you could secure yourself more money just by influencing your local representative, why wouldn't you do it?
Of course you would.
I mean, it's
bad though for the democracy, right? It's a plutocracy. The more wealthy have more power, and then they.
There's only one thing that you're thinking of, look, and that is, hey, I'm going to take care of me and my own, and I'm going to accumulate as much as I can while I can, and but on the other hand, you have to also give it for the American people. They're also some of the most giving people. They tend to give the most to charity of any other industrialized nation, but it still comes down to there's never enough. You want to make as much as you possibly can to give yourself the highest status in life as you possibly can. It's just a natural thing to do.
Which I think a big part of that, Ernie, is like you doing the work that you're doing to help people. The reason why I appreciate it is because it's especially on YouTube. Obviously, there's plenty of people that bitch and moan about the government. They bitch and moan about how bad things are, how horrible our system is, the corrupt banks, all that stuff. None of it really. I don't think I'm going to be able to change that personally. So I figure, like, within the system, I got to do everything I can in order to take care of myself and my family, like you just said. Within the system, I'm not going to do things that are illegal. I'm not going to hurt anybody else. But within that system, I have to engage that, learn as much as I can. Maybe I won't be the next Bill Gates, but I certainly want to learn as much as I can in order to not be have such a defeatist attitude in that system and say, oh, it's horrible, there's nothing I can do. Well, yeah, there's always something you can do. You can adapt no matter where you are to try to at least give your family the best opportunity.
That's right. But and it's unfortunate that there are a lot of people. Again, we get back to a societal problem. Overall, we're getting dumbed down. We're getting sort of pigeonholed into certain things. We're not giving people the type of incentive that they need, to get out of there. And the whole system's kind of perpetuated. So in the bottom, it's designed to keep people dumbed down. At the top, it's designed to grow people richer and richer. So that's why we're getting the divide. And it really all comes down to the payoff scheme. I think that if you get rid of career politicians, the whole problem goes away.
How do you get rid of them, though? So I'm with you on that.
Well,
right?
there's only two ways. One is you can vote them out and vote people in that will vote for term limits. The other is you have a revolution.
Right. So, but I'm saying like this pragmatically. Let's say you vote people in that say, yeah, I agree. I mean, first of all, people have to get off their ass and vote, right? So let's say people actually do that, and they say, yeah, I want it to be better, and a large majority of people vote out anybody that doesn't believe in term limits. Okay, let's say that's the only thing. You say, if you believe in term limits, I'll vote you in. And if you don't do it, if you don't get this changed, I'm going to vote you out again. I'm going to do it again, even if it takes a generation, right? So let's say you have all the people in there say, yep, I agree, we changed the law, there are term limits, I don't care, 4 years, 8 years, whatever it is, okay, we come up with something. In the end, let's say you look at that and you say, okay, I've been in this job for 4 years. Now I have to go back to, somehow I have to go back into the normal world and make a living, right?
Right.
As a politician, I now could have had a nice job. I could have had great benefits. My family gets all kinds of stuff that probably you wouldn't have gotten in the public sector. Now, and that it means my extended family. That means employees. That means everybody's cousin's cousin. All that goes with that, right? All the nepotism, everything that's accepted in our society. Now let's say that goes away. You can only stay in office for 4 years. Who is going to do that?
Well, see, for one thing, we would get a better brand of politician because we would get people in there that aren't in it for the money, that are in there to do a service. And that's the way it used to be. People felt that running for office was kind of like a civic duty. They would go in, they would do their time, and then they would go back to their custodial or their citizen's life.
I totally get that, but in today's day and age, though, you can't just go back to your farm. So, like, in other words, somebody says, hey, I want to do this. Even a doctor says, I want to make a living, right? They don't do it just out of the goodness of their heart. I mean, they might have altruistic beliefs, and they might really want to just help their society, but in the end, they have to come back to, how do I take care of myself? How do I take care of my family? So I'm not talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. We're talking about thousands of people and 300 whatever million people there are in this country. How do you get people that are willing to do that, put aside parts of their life?
So you're thinking like it's a static society, the way it is now. And I would agree with you. If